Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the party. Yeah. Hello, Shelley. Hello, Austin. We have the superstars in here. Hello, Quinty. Hello, Sharon. Hi, Sam. Hello to everyone in the Facebook group. Hello to everyone in the Zoom room, and hello to everyone who's watching the replay. I am so honored you're here. We are so excited to be offering this fall extravaganza session. Hello, Carlingberg. We see you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So as you all are logging on, I just want to take a moment and kind of set the tone here. Hello, Sincere. I'm so glad you're here. We as members, we have been in a membership together since about February. And I have just been so honored to get to know everyone in this membership so beautifully well, and their hearts and their mission and their vision. And they are all geniuses in their own right. They are all experts in their own way. And a couple months ago, I started discussing with my partner, like, God, the people inside this membership are so next level. I want to know what I can do with this. Like, we have so much to offer the world. And through conversation, even through Melanie Ann Layer doing her summit, like all these different things kind of brought together this extravaganza for you all, where we are creating a space where you are welcome to join for free. And people inside the membership could choose whether or not they wanted to present something they are passionate about, something they are experts in, share their stories, share their wisdom. And so that is what we're here for, is just to provide collective wisdom, to provide a safe space for you to just absorb and be. And my intention, I know it's the intention of each of our speakers, that you walk away with something that makes a difference in your life. Something I love that Austin wrote inside this group, in the Facebook group, said, if you even just took one thing away, just one thing away is better than you trying to take everything away. So I just really want to give you the permission to let it be as simple as it can be. If you only take one thing away from this entire extravaganza, that's something you didn't have beforehand. If you take one thing away from each session, that's 6 different things you didn't have beforehand. That is so much, right? And our hope, our intention, like Austin wrote, is it's going to help everything fall into place in your life. So we have everything from people sharing their own story, to sharing their own breakthrough, to sharing how to go on hot dates, right? And attract exactly what you want, how to use movement to heal your body. We have everything, how to make more money and have more peace in your business. So there's something for everyone here. So I hope that you can just sit back, show up, enjoy. I do encourage, if you can, to come live. There's something really beautiful about live energy, but if not, the replays will be inside our Facebook group under the guides section. So you can be there, or you can find it there, everything you need. You're so welcome. Hi, I'm so glad Sincere this is speaking to you. Okay, without further ado, I am so honored, so thrilled to introduce you guys to one of my favorite couples ever. And I am so excited for what you're going to learn from them. Austin and Shelley came into my life, gosh, I have to look back now, at least a few months ago. And Austin and Shelley just crack me up, blow me away. They have been on such a fascinating journey themselves, and they're going to share more about how they've been coming home to themselves, how that's helped them come home to each other. And really something that they're passionate about is the emergence of the emotionally intelligent man. And I think there's such a hunger for this. I mean, at least in my coaching space, I'm getting more and more men signing up and working with me. I think there's just such a hunger in men to grow and expand and be everything they came here to be, but in a way that feels good, not in a way that feels fake or fraud or forced, like very aligned, very flowy. And I cannot think of a better couple than Austin and Shelley to speak on this and teach on this. So with that, Austin and Shelley, I'd love for you to guys come on and introduce yourselves, start leading the way. And you let me know if you want me to ask questions throughout or let you riff. And then I come at the end. Like, I'm just here to support you in your shining.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the intro. I'm Austin McLeod.
Hi, I'm Shelley McLeod.
Together we're the Couples Take On, and before we kind of get started, Shelley wanted to read you a little prayer from the universe kind of thing, so she's gonna pull that out. Okay.
Okay. Divine Creator, allow me to give with complete ease and abundance, knowing that you are the unlimited source of all. Let me be an easy, open conduit for your prosperity. Let me trust that all my own needs are always met in amazing ways, and that it is safe to give freely as my heart guides. And equally, let me feel wildly open to receiving. May I know my own value, beauty, worthiness without question. Let me allow others the supreme gift of giving to me. May I feel worthy to receive in every possible way. Change me into one who can fully love, forgive, and accept myself so that I may carry your light without construction. Let everything that needs to go, go. But everything that needs to come, come. I am utterly your own. You are me. I am you. We are one. All is well.
Well, I'm glad.
First, that was so good. And second, please post that in the Facebook group. That was a gift. Thank you.
Thank you.
I skimmed it quickly, but it wasn't the same as hearing Shelley read it in the moment. I was like, yeah, yep, all that stuff. So we're open to you asking questions or jumping in whenever. Maybe you could keep an eye on this Facebook group, so we could just kind of stay in the flow of the moment. That'd be really helpful. And if people have questions, we're open to that too. And probably pause a couple times to let things kind of catch up and land, if that's cool with everyone.
That sounds great. And I'll totally interject if I have like a question. I'll be like, guys, wait, stop there, say more. Happy to do that.
All right, sounds good. So,
Go ahead. Where do you want to start?
we always do this before we get started. It's like kind of
I
like
love it.
sort of like okay, now we can get together. And so that's kind of what everything has all been about in this last almost 2 years. Back in January 2022, prior to that, Shelley was working the ER and just taking care of the whole hospital, 200 employees and all this stuff, and it was just like exhausting. And she'd pull up to the house and me and her son were like excited to see her. We'd come out, give her a kiss, and just let her chill in the car for half an hour just to just kind of like settle in and stuff like that. So it's been quite the journey of that. From going from that and a fifth of vodka a night passed out to like having intelligent conversations and just like going from like a few years ago, Shelley could barely like make complete sentences just from pure exhaustion of work. And I was just hanging in there, and me and him were just hanging in there and we're like, okay, any day, whatever you're gonna do is fine. So you want to jump in? Or you want me to keep going?
No. So, okay. So basically the backstory is that in my teens and 20s, I was an artist living in San Francisco. And my specialty was 4x5 photography. And primarily I did a photo series, so this is 30 years ago, on body dysmorphia, but it more related to myself because I weighed 300 pounds for the majority of quite a bit of my adult life. And so at the time, there was no representation in the media. There was just newspaper, there was just magazines, and then there was whatever you saw on TV, and that was it.
Wow.
And so I didn't realize that very much subconsciously, there was a bit of torture going on. I didn't realize it. And so I was trying to be artistic and represent myself in a way that it was like, I want to have fun. I want to be accepted. I can look any way I want, kind of dress like what I see now, fast forward 30 years, what I see now. And so I proceeded to kind of live that life and also worked in the .coms during the first web boom when the internet first came out. And I was in marketing and I loved it. And then we had like a bit of an economic downturn. And I said, okay, art, marketing, all of that, it's really tough. And so I went into nursing. And I pursued something which I thought was the right thing. It was more the acceptance of wanting just to have something that was steady and I could fall back into. And so for 20 years, I proceeded to lead a very kick-ass career in the nursing field. But ultimately, there was nothing inside. I didn't, I think in the beginning of my career, I really enjoyed it and I felt it. But then as technology caught up with the healthcare field, things drastically changed. And it was no longer a passion and a purpose and a mission. And instead, it was very like a robotic thing. And it began to affect all areas of my life. And I didn't understand nervous system dysregulation. And so I went and proceeded to get prescriptions and alcohol and all those other things. And I also was going through a divorce with a child and had weight loss surgery because I was like, I am not going to be single and fat because again, this was very social media. And so I was like, I have to be thin, like I have to find someone. And it was all just irrational stuff I look back on. And I had weight loss surgery and I became thin and I thought I had like a glamorous, beautiful life. And him and I met during that time. And it was very magical. It turned out, even though he was almost 9 years younger than me, I was like, there's something about him. We were brought together. We were both from San Diego. And we were meeting in this random town here in California, in Stockton. I mean, it was just very serendipitous looking back. And it was also during a time when we met, I was not on any medication at all. I was able to not be on antidepressants. I was able to cultivate my own joy from like just everything in my life. And so we fell in love and had a very like beautiful, relationship during that time, and proceeded to get married within about 10 months of meeting. But I was still carrying a lot of my baggage, from other things and whatnot. And so then, as time went on within the relationship, there began to become a lot of faltering and finger pointing and unhappiness, and turning more and more into alcohol and drugs for me, but then also climbing up the corporate ladder, thinking that if I get other titles in my life, that it will solve everything, instead of speaking to my spouse, and like having communication. So anyway, we then have finally come together. So the pandemic really affected both of us, him as a teacher, me as a nurse. And I had some sort of divine guidance from the universe and was directed to plant medicine, and went and had like a very beautiful journey with fungi. And it really unlocked me back to my young version of myself in my 20s in a way I can never explain to anyone, except for I came home. And that home was to myself and the love for myself and everything else. And so since that time, we've been on a journey together, because when I came home, I was a totally different person. I literally went from being on the couch doing nothing, barely having conversations with anyone, to all of a sudden, we have to do this, and having an insane drive to just flow finally, like unlocking memories that I had like put in the background from 25 years ago, from just traumas and stuff like that. And then being able to be like, I don't need to be traumatized or shamed or anything like that. And so with that, I unlocked all my photography, all the
Can I talk this part?
yes, go ahead.
So like Shelley was like, I'm gonna go do this plant and fungi journey, and I'm like, okay, cool. Like, do you want to know any science about it? Because my background for my master's was medicinal chemistry, and I was like, oh man, I could tell you about every little mechanism. And she's like, no, don't want to know. I just want to go. I was like, okay, is there anything you need me to do? No. I'm like, whatever happens, happens. Like, if you want to come back and stay together, fine. If you want to not be together, fine. If you want to quit your job or do something else, like, fine, no problem. Well, I didn't expect when she would come home, she'd go from like 0 on the couch, 0 miles per hour to 1,000 miles an hour. And me and her son joke around like, how long is this gonna last? Like, let's wait like 2 weeks. Let's see if like it dies down.
It was literally waking him up at 4 a.m. like, I need to tell you this. You need to know all about this. It was something I can never explain to anyone.
It was quite the change. Like, just it was kind of the end of the pandemic time, January 2022. I think I was teaching hybrid. I don't remember exactly, but like me and her son were like, yeah, let's see what happens. And then she's like, you guys need to go to the garage and you need to dig out all my old photos. And I'm like, oh my God, this is just gonna be a mess everywhere. I was like, okay, I'm just going with the flow here. And I brought everything in, and she starts bringing out stuff and memories, and she's like, you know what? We should do NFTs and crypto. I was like, all right, let's do it. So it was just a lot all at once. Like, it's kind of, there's this movie called Everything Everywhere All at Once, and we've must have watched it 10 times now. And it's like, it's kind of like that. And it's like, you go do these life-changing experiences and you see all this stuff of your own creativity, and then all of a sudden, like, you don't know what to do with all of it. So you're like, okay, let me just figure out where I'm at. Do you have any questions so far? Are there any questions in the group so far?
Yeah, I want to say something here.
Yeah.
So I think, Shelley, when you were sharing your kind of your journey, I think it's so relatable. I think we all can kind of relate to this idea of at one point in our lives, usually when we were younger, we were inspired and creative and like free and like following our heart and just like being true. And then over time, through variety of reasons of family, society, pressure, and all kinds of forms, we start caving towards the conventional path or the acceptable life, when we get like the appropriate job, and we go for stability, we go for being responsible rather than responsible to our dreams. We become responsible to others, right? Like, oh, I have a kid now, or I'm divorced now, or I'm older now, so I need to have whatever the dot is, dot 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 dot. I need a stable job, I need predictable income, I need to stop being so dreamy, and I need to be more realistic. I think everyone can relate to this. And then the whole unraveling of who we really are. And then what I loved what you guys shared is I think a lot of us can also relate to having that kind of divine intervention, right? Where like you were stuck in a rut, you're going 0 miles per hour. And then what called out to you was this fungi trip, and it like blew your world open and like helped bring you back home. And like now from this place of like who you really are and who you really desire to be, you and Austin have been on this journey the past years of figuring out how to come home to each other in this way. So I just want to like name that, because I think this is really relatable to everyone in our own version of it. And I just think you guys have so much wisdom and insight to offer. So thank you so much for sharing. Quinty, I see you have a question. Let's hear it.
Yes, hi. Well, of course, I know Austin and Shelley for a while now, and I was wondering, like, for you guys, what has been the most important point in your story? Like, I know, of course, already a little bit of the background, but like, I was curious, like, what has been the most important thing in all this time?
You want us to answer separately?
Yeah, actually, yeah.
Okay. I think the ability to like have an actual conversation with
Mhm.
Shelley of like, hey, this is what I'm feeling. What are you feeling? And not go into like attack or defense mode has been a huge, huge up level every single time of just having more common ground. And like Shelley shared that she was over 300 pounds for a while, and I've gone up and down too. She's gained 100, lost 100, gained 100, lost 100, and then now it's my turn to lose the other 100. You know what I'm saying? And so we have a lot of connection through food experience, food emotions, and like hold like instead of sharing our truth, we ate food to kind of like hold that stuff back. And now as we're like having that connection and foundation where we could even talk about these kind of emotions or whatever and share those stories and how we're feeling, now we can connect even more because we feel like safety, connection, and then we can get into fulfillment of being able to actually talk. So like even this morning we had an example of this. Do you want to share? Or you want me to tell you?
Which one?
So Shelley was trying to figure out what clothes to wear today, right?
I'm careful.
We know how this goes, and it's like it's between seasons. It's in fall, and you're like, I don't know, and we know how this goes. And like her and I used to like just hate to wear clothes, and now we're like buying some nicer clothes with fabrics that feel better, and it feels better on our body, and we're like, okay, if I feel comfortable in my clothes, I'll feel more comfortable talking. So Shelley put on this outfit, and she's like, oh, it looks like I gained a few pounds and now it fits, right? So it's like joking around now, because like a couple years ago, that would be like shutdown mode. Like Shelley would be like, I gained weight and I don't like it and whatever. But now it's like, if you can give yourself a little, like Laz Ross says, one of a fellow Condor coach, he said, if you give yourself some grace, like Shelley's like, oh, it looks like I gained a few pounds. And then you have gratitude of like, oh, this fits. And then the gift is, oh, we get to kind of match today. How about that? Right? Do you want to say anything about that? So Quinty was asking, are you going to answer Quinty's question?
Yes. What was the question? Remind me.
What was the most important thing that has happened in your journey?
I think for me, I've really come to this realization recently is the ability to be able to surrender to the trust within our relationship. Because I found myself very much resisting a lot of trusting. And what I mean by that is supporting the vision me wanting to maintain complete control, hyper independence, basically like shutting him off. And then I recognize when I'm doing that, then I'm like shutting off messages from the universe. And then it's almost like, well, what is the relationship? Because I'm blocking it so much. And so then I had to do deep inner work on myself to wonder, whose story am I repeating or saying? And then I just sort of looked at a lot of the women figures that have been in my life, including those on TV, i.e. Murphy Brown from the 1990s. And I really recognized that hyper independence and not being able to trust. And so once I really more surrendered and had open conversations, like when I feel uncomfortable or nervous about certain decisions we're making, and letting him know, then I can't explain it. It's just really allowed for a different level of intimacy that I was unaware existed.
Oh,
So
wow.
like we went from like the predictable field of
Yeah.
she was a nurse, I was a teacher, predictable money coming in, to she came back from her journey and was like, I'm not gonna work in my county pension hospital anymore. And I was like, yeah, we'll figure it out. You got photos, we could do NFTs. I used to do eBay and selling car parts years ago. I'm like, we'll just do it again. Just put it on the, you know, the new, it just looks different. It's like we see these patterns and trends coming around and we're like, oh, this new pattern and trend now of like self-love, self-care, taking care of yourself, trying to see where other people are coming from. Like that's kind of the next thing. And like it's like kind of being in at the ground floor of it with your partner, right? So now we're like, we joke around like we're business partners in booze, you know? And so like BOOS, not BOOZE. Like so like we flipped the script, right? And we're doing something unpredictable by getting together and like even talking. And so she's like, oh, I gained a few pounds. I was like, it looks great, like perfect, we're ready to go, you know? But like getting to that point of being able to even say that is big. A big takeaway with like Shelley is by saying her needs to me, then I can respond and fulfill the needs or wants. And it goes kind of both ways too. Like I'm like, what's up? Your energy is like, whoosh. I'm like, are you hungry? Did you drink enough water? And what's funny is Nicole jokes about this with her partner too, because her partner says, Nicole, did you eat today? Did you have water yet? And I even do that too. And so what's interesting is like Shelley was, you know, badass bitch in the hospital, you know, like queen bee, whatever you want to call it over there. And then went into this space of like NFTs and quit her job and like into like the goddess mode of like just taking a break from after grinding for like what 15 years or something. And so then I had to step up in that like energetics of kind of holding that so that she could like take a break. And then that opened the conversation of will she allow me to help her, right? Which happened when we first met. There was a lot of like energetic dynamics of like push, pull, you know, all this stuff. And then that kind of came around again after her journey. And then that's been a lot of a focus in the last year and a half is, okay, will you allow me to help? And so I'm really good at helping people and anticipating their needs because that kept me safe as a kid, right? You know, what is it called? Regulating the emotions of my parents. And then I was like, okay, so then as a teacher, like kids be fumbling around looking for stuff. I just put this pen right in front of them and like just walk away. And I don't even say anything because I'm still doing my thing. And they like come back from their bag of stuff and they see the pen's here. And it's like, boom, they're right back into what they need to do because their need was met. And then with Shelley, it's like, once she started allowing the help, then she could receive the help, but she had to be in receiving. But if she's in go, 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 how can you possibly sync with your partner if you're both in go, go, go? One of you has to like kind of be willing to like receive that. And what's interesting is going through all this stuff with like emotions for here's what's going to come up with men. We did a journey together like later that summer of 2022. And then I was like, I started letting emotions out too, because I hadn't really cried from age 4 to almost 40, you know, when my mom passed away a few years ago. And then I was like in this journey, feeling the emotions of what she had been through at the hospital, because I'd heard all the stories.
There's a lot of trauma dumping going on for
Yeah.
a significant portion of our relationship.
Yeah, and
So
that I
things
think
needed to change.
I think like we've been talking about this too, about like me gaining weight as a way to like hold all the information that was like coming at me.
The realization, and this is the work, because like if I have jealousy that arises or I have different emotions within my body, so that's the one thing I look back at my nursing career is with all the knowledge I have with different emotions and where they're stored within your bodies, and then how it aligns with like the chakra systems. For me, it allows me to go in to see my shadows when they come up. Let's say I'm jealous of him, or let's say I'm mad he didn't do something this exact way. You know, I'm able to like go in and process to be like, that isn't my story. That was like somebody else, sort of like a construct that's kind of come through. And I also realized that's not even my story about having a relationship with my husband or partner or, you know, whoever. In fact, we just were recently talking that I never knew this until this year, that I had been given a ring. So I've been married 3 times. This is my 3rd marriage. And I had been given a ring in my first marriage, and I recycled that with him. And I know that, like, I look at that now and I'm horrified. I didn't realize this at the time. I'm horrified by it, but I was sort of following this construct of I want a bigger ring than what he provided for me, even though the ring he gave me was ruby, because it was like, you mentioned you wanted a ruby. But in my very fantasy way of escaping, I just was like, oh, it needs to be X amount of carats, whatever. Like stories that, like, yes, I will manifest that in the future, but it doesn't matter. What he was showing me was true heart, his true emotions, and all of this thought process. And I didn't realize when I like busted out my other ring and like we went and had it made into something, like it really crushed him. And I did not know that until this year. And so now for me to be able to be like, I am so sorry. Like, I did not know, like, I was running off somebody else's programming. And to now recognize it doesn't really matter what the size of anything is, it's the heart and the intention and the emotion behind it. And it's just brought like a different level of a lot of things within our relationship. I mean, there's other, I mean, obviously there's a whole bunch of other stories and things and realizations, but it's just allowed me to see like actions, not by being in a hyper independent state, sort of what actions came about, you know, and ways in which like I didn't realize like my partner it hurt him.
Oh, or that men have feelings other than just like, oh,
Yeah.
baby, I love you.
Yeah,
Oh, you know?
that was the other thing, is that I very much, it was modeled, I did not see men's emotions, maybe crying at a funeral type of thing. I look back even in my hospital career, because I was mainly an emergency room nurse, and even the men and stuff like that, it was just a whole different ball game. But I recognize it was me trying to protect myself from taking on their emotions. But now I look at it as a gift. I look at it as I was able to be with people in some of the best and worst times of their life. And so that's also allowed me to like crack open my heart even more, to allow more of like our relationship in the trust, you know, the other emotions, the jealousy, the scarcity, things like that, to really just start to not be that big of a deal within my body. You know, it's more like it'll come up. I'll see it in the moon cycles, the new moon, the full moon, the eclipse, like it'll appear. It really does for me in the astrology seasons. But then being able to like talk openly with my partner with this items, including then now we've really gotten to syncing my cycles as I'm going through a change, perimenopause. And so I'm just noticing like big changes in how I feel. And so not like running myself into the ground, and instead like maximizing our power together, you know, as a couple working together.
So I think,
Wow. Can I say something?
oh yeah,
There's like, this is like a gold mine. Like, holy schmoly. I'm so excited. This is being recorded. I'm so excited this is going to stay up in the Facebook group, because I feel like people can re-listen to this over and over again. There's like, you guys are dropping so many golden nuggets. So I just want to say thank you for that. You are a gold mine of wisdom. And I just wanted to comment on a couple things. I think it's amazing. Like, there's some things you said that I wrote in the chat of just like, you had to lean in to the trust of the relationship. Like, wow. Because I think so much of us, like you guys, fall in love and we are so open and trusting, and then all our trauma and all of our old patterns and our old fears are often still with us. And so then we, without even realizing it, we revert to our old ways in a new relationship, and it starts changing this relationship that we found. And what I love about what you just shared, how you realize something now that you didn't know 10 years ago. And like, this is you guys literally transforming your relationship, not just in present day, but you're going back to the beginning. And I think that's another beautiful thing you guys embody, is that it's not too late to heal from really hard and painful moments that you guys have experienced together. And often we weren't even aware. And yet you have willingly like owned that part and like actively gone about like, how can we mend this? How can we like fix this in a way that feels true? And like, I'm so sorry I didn't know better. So thank you for showing us that just because it's in the past doesn't mean we don't address it, and that we can not only address it, but we can actually like do something about it and like get back to the heart of it and do some repair there. It's not too late. I think it's so important. Like if we want to really lean into the trust of a relationship, part of it does require owning the times in the past that we fucked it up. Even if we weren't aware, even if it wasn't intentional, I think that's what actually makes more beautiful, when we can own the times and those moments that are so painful, so that moving forward, you feel safer to trust in the relationship. I feel safer to trust in a relationship, and we can have a different kind of relationship. I have a question for you, Austin. So Shelley's like learning, or has been learning on this journey, to receive and be open and not carry the world on her shoulders and not have to save everyone and everything. And she's becoming open, and you're willing to like meet her there. What wisdom would you give to someone who's trying to find that line between being willing to be supportive and helpful without creating codependence? Or like what you mentioned, your survival tactic as a kid, where like, I have to mitigate her emotions, I have to make sure she never gets upset, like where you start kind of warping yourself around her. Like, how do you stand in your personhood, in your power, while also beautifully supporting her?
That is quite the question.
Is that not to put you on the spot? Or
No, it's fine.
No, but I really would love to hear your wisdom.
Make it
Well-
a victim mode.
Well, like, if so, Shelley just said, talking about victim mode, right? So like, I've kind of come to learn a little bit more about a concept of like sovereignty or agency, which you've shared about a bit too, which is like, okay, I'll just say, like, sometimes you gotta let people stew in their shit, right? And if they don't want to work on it, then they get to stay there. Now I've been exploring this thing of radical consent and radical honesty, which is like, so like, I'm willing to help do anything really, but I want to be asked, right? So I'm shifting into this being asked mode. And so like, also, because I used to be like, I have an enormous amount of information, like in my brain, online, on my computers, everywhere. But like, when I give it out in the past, it was always like the flood door of like, saloon doors was just information overload to people, including to her. And so now I'm like kind of like holding it back with like the floodgates. And then I'm actually trying to let some new information come into me. Like, can I receive from others? Can I receive energy from others? Like, can I let people like pay for my dinner? Can I let people like take me out? Can I let people buy me a coffee? Like that even happened this weekend. Somebody offered me something, and usually, oh, let me pay for you for that. And they're like, no, just take it. I'm like, okay. So like, that's me opening up to me receiving. Now when I'm asking, oh, did you want to say something?
I'm like blown away when you said I'm shifting and being asked mode. That, okay, when you said like, if you just took away one nugget from this whole thing, that like, right? Because you're right. Because I think that is that shift from auto savior mode, where like, I'm going to go in and save, and like where it's kind of becomes more codependency or unhealthy patterns, to I can save, I can do pretty much anything, but I'm going to be in please ask mode. Like, I'm not just going to jump in. I like want you also to have your agency, your sovereignty to know when to ask for help. So that is like, when you said that, all the light bulbs went off. That was huge.
So like for Shelley, like now sometimes I'll just like wait, like I'll stand there and wait. And I'm like, because you can't, oh, go ahead. Did you want to say something? Oh, yeah.
I'm just like, oh my God, that's like you standing in your power, and she's like, whether or not she wants to, you're helping her stand in her power. Like, I'm like freaking out. That is like the best thing ever. But keep
Well,
going. I'll just be freaking out in the background. This is like a gold mine.
That's such a great question from Quinty. I think she had to jump off camera, but like it's really all about that. And it's like if she wants to go to In-N-Out because she's hungry, like she has to tell me that. And then when she tells me that, then I'm like, oh, I'm down for that too, right? And that's the interesting part, is usually now we're kind of more in tune with each other. Like not telepathy, but like if she's kind of hungry, she's like, hey, are you kind of hungry? I'm like, actually, see, because then that makes me get in my body for a second. Because usually I'm up in my mind doing shit, right? And now I'm trying to like be like Nicole and I have talked about this a lot of like, Austin, you do a lot. Can you just be? See, that's the thing. Do. How can I possibly receive anything if I'm always doing something? And so now I'm like, okay. And so when I go like to this and I'm like, did you want something? And if she says yes, then I could receive that information. But if you're always like, Captain Save-A-Ho or whatever, and you're always trying to fix everything, like, how do you possibly just let things come back to you? And so I've been exploring. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say that's where we've really had to come together and talk, because I find there are times when I want him to save me, or that I expect him to do things, and it's not been clearly communicated. And so then there's been issues and ruptures, and then there's been the realization, like, I don't need anybody to save me. I don't need the help with this situation. Like, I am creating a bit of some codependency going on here and some attachment. And so then we've really been working on that at recognizing it. And that also could include, because last night was one of the nights where it's literally like, I can't just talk anymore with you. I love you, but I literally cannot have you talk to me anymore. You've done nothing wrong. It's just that overstimulation of everything that's occurred during the day.
But you know what? That gives me permission to stop the rescuing, right? So as soon as she's like, I've hit my quota for information today. Thank you so much. I'm gonna go scroll and chill and watch TV, or she'll go Netflix and chill, right? And actually chill out. And I'm like, cool. And then that's the time of the night where like 6 p.m. to 2 a.m., like that's my golden hours of the day. Like, so that's the thing too. We've also like kind of synced up our cycles, like men, testosterone cycle, cortisol cycle, the sun. Men usually have a little more energy and a little more testosterone in the summer. In the winter, kind of a little bit more like just kind of resting and reading and whatever. And then Shelley, has the female hormone cycles, and she's entering perimenopause. And so now we're kind of like, wait, hold up. If I could use some of my cyclic energy to amplify her when she needs to be amplified, and like ground her when she needs to be grounded, then we could sync together, and then we could make decisions for ourselves in our partnership of our, partnership, and also in our business partnership. So that's been really interesting to explore, because like in our business, I'm like, I can't rescue you, and I need you to just stand up and do whatever it is, or she needs me to do something. And it's like there's the give and the take and the ebb and the flow. And like sometimes I'm like, hey, like, I've got some emotions coming up. Like, I would like to talk to you. Can you hold that? And asking a woman to hold emotions for a man, because our emotional intelligence usually stopped at age 4 when they're like, suck it up, buttercup, and get down to first base, and I'll give you something to cry about and all that shit. And it's like, then all of a sudden I'm like, yeah, I got something coming up. And I was talking to her about some things or whatever. I'm like, can you hold that? Can you hold more? Or is that a lot? Yeah, it's kind of a lot. I'm like, okay, but at least it gave me a part to like kind of open up a little bit, where I'm like, I don't feel like I have to bury my emotions with food, So what was Was there
I'll
something?
say something real quick. So what I love, I mean, I love so many things about you guys. And one of the many things I love about you guys is exactly what you've been talking about, Austin, is not only have you guys kind of gone on your own individual journeys and like doing your own healing and inner work, and then that's obviously massively impacted your guys' relationship and transformed it. Something else I love about you guys is your willingness to sync up. Because what I think a lot of couples might do is, well, if they even address the pain and the trauma, that's a whole thing that some couples will never do. If a couple chooses to undergo personal development individually and they come into their own power and healing, that'll improve the relationship. But choosing to sync up is a whole other level that I don't think is as common. And I love that you guys are kind of blazing this trail and modeling how a couple can do this, because you're honoring Shelley's cycle, you're honoring your cycle, you're having these open and honest conversations about where you guys are at in your cycle. And like, if I know you've talked about before, Austin, if Shelley's more in the do mode, you see how you can be in the be mode, or if you're in the do mode, how can Shelley be in the be mode? Like, it's a very intentional way of living that I think can actually be really magical. But I think I think not many people do it. So I think if people hear this, I'm wondering if some couples might be like, that's overwhelming. So what advice would you give to a couple that is open? They're curious, like, God, that being in flow together sounds amazing. Kind of sounds overwhelming. We don't know where to start. What advice could you give to someone who's open and curious, but maybe a little nervous to start that path?
Well, first of all, like, if you want to include your partner in something, it's really great if you take a deep dive yourself too. Or if you feel a little overwhelmed, just pick one little thing. Like, you know, it depends on it. What we find is that every relationship's a little different. Everybody's at a different place. What works in one relationship may not work in another. And so it's important to see kind of where the relationship is, and then to go into the roadmap of intimacy from like the Condor method. It's like very first step is like, it's kind of related to what you had said recently of like, check the energetics on your side of the street. So I'm going to check my energetics. Where am I at? Am I pissed? Am I mad? Am I excited? Like, because sometimes anxious and excitement are like energetically the same. And so it's like, wait, am I anxious or am I excited? And I'm like, oh, I'm kind of excited to learn more info. And then maybe I would do something for myself, right? Like maybe I'm going to go for a walk. Like, hey babe, do you want to go for a walk? No, I'm good. Okay, well, I'm going to go for a walk. Then I go for a walk, and then maybe I get something that drops into me. Oh, hey, on my walk, I had something drop in. Do you want to hear about it? And that's the radical consent thing. And she could say, no, not right now. I'm doing my own thing. Or yeah, what came up for you? And then that's like this little piece of intimacy. So it's like sharing your needs, like invitation, right? Hey, do you want to go for a walk? No. Oh, cool. I'm gonna go on. Oh, our dog heard the magic words WALK. We usually say it backwards. We want to go for a claw, and she doesn't know. Oops. Anyway, we go around the block or whatever, and something drops in, and then I'm like, "Hey, you want to hear it?" She's like, "Yeah." And I might say like, something came up for me recently where like, reparenting your child's self, right? So like a lot of people are like, "This is the new me." And then it's like they forgot to integrate all the little pieces of them along the way, which is kind of something you were talking about, Nicole, of like, if you could bring all of your childhood pieces and all of yourself all together in this, like, it's instead of just one little spaghetti stick that could get like chopped down, you got all the little spaghetti sticks of yourself just amalgamated together in like this huge column of you. And when somebody tries to hit on you, like, or the universe or test you or whatever, you have all of you to call into that, whatever your next move is. So it's like, if you could find one thing and just start small, like, hey, I want to go on a walk. Do you want to go? No. Okay. And then you go. Instead of being mad that they said no, you could be like, oh, they don't want to go. It's okay. I'll do my thing. So you do your thing, and then you feel at ease. You regulating your nervous system. And then when you come back in a more regulated state, you might be like, hey, how's it going? Or maybe they might say, hey, would you like to go on a second around the block. So that helped a lot. What do you think? What's a one thing somebody could do right now? Like, because syncing cycles has been that's been a very interesting process. But
I think the biggest place to start with is if you're thinking about even having these discussions with your partner and it makes you feel really uncomfortable, you need to like lean into your body and like scan it and understand, where is the uncomfortableness coming from? Whose story? Where is it yours? Is it someone else's? Like
is it a
is it a
construct from
construct?
how you grew up or whatever?
Right. Is it also potentially like fear of being rejected by your partner? And that was some big things that I had to work through, because it was just some fears of like being rejected for these like crazy, silly ideas that I don't see other people doing. And then I was like, just because I don't see somebody else doing it, it's not silly. And then once we just start talking and creating our own blueprint, because that's the other thing I've realized is like everybody has their own individual blueprint and it really can change. And I almost feel like it's important that it changes, because that's the growth that we all need, just to kind of continue on living in a cycle, you know? So it's been, I've really had to lean into it. I mean, I went to a women's college. I was very much hyper independent and you just not trust the man. I mean, trust him to a point and then not trust him. And so for me, I really just allowed myself to receive feminine flow and soften to a masculine structure that he's always had. Like, I look back to when we first met, we've always had a masculine structure. I just didn't recognize it because I was too caught up in that isn't done that way. It needs to be done this way, because I wasn't connected with my body. And I was totally in my head, disconnected from feeling my body and how it felt. And that's why I say, if you want to, the place to start, I mean, you could sit down with your partner and discuss it together, is the feelings that it brings up in your body. And then kind of from there, like talking about it, because I feel as though most of this stuff is fucking constructs, which has never been your story, and you're able to rewrite it and reparent yourself.
Hold on, I'm like trying to write that down.
Yeah, let's take a pause for a sec, and then everybody in the chat on Facebook or Zoom, let's let this stuff catch up. Like, what's one thing that any of us have said that's landed with you? You could put it in the chat, or you could put it in your notes in your phone, or whatever you like.
I think I wrote down what you just said. I might have to go back and watch the replay, but something like, most of your life has been constructs and not your story. That's so good. I do want to read some comments to you. I'm going to scroll back because we got some mini Facebook comments. I'll read some of them, all of them. Let me find it. Malika wrote, "It's great when you achieve a supportive system with your spouse. Some people often are quick to criticize my husband and I because they consider us as codependent, but they cannot understand how blessing it is to have that special sync. Much love to Austin and Shelley and to all of you listening to this inspiring story."
Thank you, Malika.
And then when you guys talk about your third marriage, Sincere wrote, "Third time's a charm." I love it.
Yep.
Malika wrote, "I'm my husband's third wife and he is my second." Like, look at that. Like, you guys owning that part of your story made it safe for someone else to own theirs. Like, that's why so many of us hide our true emotions and feelings. It's beautiful when we find someone to accept us as whole beings instead of just as men. This was Sincere.
Nice. Yeah.
Let's see. Sincere said, "This was a jewel for me. The quote, 'If I'm constantly in do mode, how can I possibly receive?'" When you said that, Austin. Malika wrote, "Know yourself, at least know your curiosities and inclinations. Be brutally honest with your partner. He/she must do the same. Work for your dreams and aspirations and work equally to achieve his and hers." Something I liked about your advice, Austin, was like, you gave an example of someone staying in their power. If you ask your partner, "Hey, do you want to go for a walk? I'm going to go on one." They say no. I can see a lot of people saying, like, and then immediately use that as an excuse to have a fight. Like, "You never go, and I'm always," and then they don't even go. And you're saying, I love how you're like, then you go. You can ask, and whatever their answer is, you still go, boo. Like, you still take care of you. You still live your life. Like, that's you staying in your power and not creating a dependency upon your partner. That we've talked about this in my classes. When we link things unnecessarily, I link my well-being and happiness upon you behaving correctly. And you behaving correctly is what I assume, what I think you should do in this moment. And when you don't do what I think you should do, well, then that's you causing me to be grumpy, when all of that needs to be unlinked and take the meaning out of it. And like, I invited someone to come do this with me, no matter their answer, I'm still going to do this for me. I freaking love that. And then Shelley, I loved how you again gave power back to the body. I think a lot of us live our lives in our head. And if we can just like return to our body and tune in, I'm so glad we have another speaker, Jenny, coming on later this week about being in your body and how that can actually help heal and grow. And I know you guys know this very well, but I think something as basic, but as profound as that is forgotten. We think like, I remember I had a client recently saying, Nicole, do you have an affirmation for me? And I said, I don't have an affirmation for you, but I have a practice for you. Like something to like actually embody, not just think. Like, we've got to get out of the head into the body. And I love that advice you gave.
Like yesterday, I went to do a photo video shoot with a professional chef, who is Shelley's college best friend. And in the beginning, I was like, I kind of treated it like, a journey. It's like, what are the 4 ends? Like, what's the intake look like? What are your intentions in space together? And then how are you going to integrate this? So I started with, hey, what's your vision for me, videoing you today? Well, I'd kind of like some film and footage for my next class that I'm going to do in person, because she's doing holiday cooking in the flow. Like, how to like stop getting overwhelmed by 50 ingredients and like have your toolbox of ingredients, your go-to stuff, and like little tips and tricks. And I was like, awesome. I'm going to try to catch those little tips and tricks for you. And so Shelley helped me shoot some film, and we did some IG lives for her and this and that. And she was just in her little flow, and we were kind of like doing the masculine thing, but we were being in the flow of the moment of doing it. Because like Shelley's went to photography school, and I've always liked photos. So Shelley holds the masculine structure for me of me being in the creativity. Because when I was filming yesterday, I could have got hit by cars because we had to go walk to Ace Hardware, and Shelley, I'm like, keep an eye on me so that I don't get hit, right? So that's like the duality of the ask receive part.
Really great example, because then yesterday I was beyond exhausted when we finally got in the car to go home. And that's literally what I was like, I can't talk. I cannot integrate this. It was so much, but it was because I was in my head, because I became disembodied. And I recognized why. I saw I did some assessment. And it was also, I hadn't seen this gal for 25 years. We had drifted apart. And so here we're like coming in and helping, but there was so many dynamics going on. And so I recognized sort of where my power sort of went away. And I was like, well, what could I have done? And the reality is that I allowed myself to flow in the way that kept me safe. And so it kept me in my head, and it kept me tired and more stressed out than I'd like. But now I have that awareness for, the next time. And I was able to really support Austin, because he was in a totally like creative flow, and he would hand me some stuff. And even though I was in my head, I knew what to do with it. I was just like, do. I was like, wait, I am embodied for this,
Right. Well, and we noticed that with Pesha, like Shelley's Gen X, I'm a late millennial. Like, I kind of noticed some things with different generations. And so I was like talking to Shelley about that with Pesha, and it was interesting. And once Pesha started cooking, totally in her feminine flow again, totally. All she needed was the structure of the building, like the professional kitchen that she rented out. So that was like the masculine energy thing of like, she's like, I'm going to rent the thing. When you guys get here, we're going to get the key. And then like she forgot stuff. And like Shelley and I are like, oh, we'll go to Kinko's. We'll take care of it. UPS store, whatever. Ace got everything we needed. But she allowed that help, right? Because she communicated with us, hey, I forgot some stuff. Could you take care of it? We're like, yeah, we'll take care of it. But like because sometimes Shelley's talked about this a lot, like sometimes women get into this thing of like being the badass, do it all mommy culture, like, oh, I'm gonna do this and this and this, and it's like, how do you receive if you're always doing? And then so like Pesha received our help. We did the photo shoot, video shoot. And at the end, in the integrate part, I was like, how'd it go? What do you think? She's like, I need some time to process. I was like, cool. Like, hit us up later in the week. No problem. Like, do you want help cleaning up? No, I want to clean up. I like to do it. Okay. And then she's like, you know what I will tell you? I really liked your energy today. And I was like, well, what does that mean? And she said, well, I felt really calm with you. Like, I felt like I could just flow into it. Like, I knew I was on camera, but I wasn't thinking about it. I was just doing my thing. And I was like, that's awesome. Like, we really thank you to hear that. Right. And as men too, like, you woman like Shelley asks for some help and then she receives it. And then as a man, I really like it when Shelley or others say like, hey, I respect your work. I like what you did. I appreciate you. I'm going to share that with my other girlfriends to let them know that you're like holding that safe space for us to do the flow of the work. And so I think that's like a huge takeaway in my mind of like, can you receive help as a man? Could you receive help as a woman? Is it okay for guys to receive help? Is it okay for women to receive help? Is it, like that's a huge thing I think our society is like navigating right now is like, wait, I could be a little more versus do.
And I was in that do, and I recognize with the, the feedback that we did have, the ways in which I was in my head, not being in a flow, meaning like receiving and also assisting, because instead it was like the do, rip and run is what we call it, because you want to get it done. And then I at one point did go in the corner and I went, there is no time frame here. Where is this time frame coming up? Because I have some time-based trauma. And I was just like, this isn't my story. And then I realized like me was creating my own energetics of stress, of disembodiment, of just being in my own mind, And so that's where we can now come together today and talk about it for the energetic flow of how we work together in a more symbiotic way.
Because like a year ago, 2 years ago or more, no way we could have these kind of conversations. No way. Like, but how do you start that? It's like the little thing of like, hey, would you like to go for a walk with me? And if she says no, I respect her sovereignty and her agency that she decides like, no, I'm not going. Cool, I go, right? But like, that's the other thing too. I used to say stuff like, I'm gonna go eat sushi. Do you want to go? That doesn't allow her any say or anything. And so like that was something Kevin Bruce Scott was saying was like basically ask a few different options until you arrive to something that seems good. Like, do you want to go for sushi? No. Do you want to go for, how about steakhouse? No. How about McDonald's? Yeah. And then you're on the way. You know what? I'm not feeling McDonald's. I'm feeling this. And then you like, so it's like being adaptable and being able to like kind of pivot in the moment. That's like the flow. Because when you get stuck in the do of like, oh no, you said we're going to McDonald's and that's where we're going to go. And like that starts fights. Why couldn't we just flow into like the next thing? Like a river goes down and it hits a rock, and does it keep just hitting the rock, or does it kind of go around the rock? And so I think that's been a big thing for us of like, if that's one little takeaway, how could you go into the flow just a little bit more? How, instead of staying like, I'm right here and you have to move around me, and it's like, oh, cool, man, I see you're there, I'm gonna move around you, like talking about boundaries or whatever it might be in relationships, at work, at home, wherever it is in your life.
It reminds me of something we've talked about in our calls and stuff about being love versus being right. When you like choose to be that rock and you refuse to move, it's like, I'm being right. No, I was here first. You weren't. And even though like, I could move because everything would just flow, I care more about being right than being love. But when I'm being love, it's like, oh, let me just move over and the water can keep flowing by. Like, I love that. And I love I wrote that quote down. You said being adaptable and in the moments being in the flow. I think that's such a beautiful definition because I think a lot of people throw around the phrase be in the flow. And I think a lot of us don't even know what that means. Like we think we know, but there's no real tangible definition. And what you just said there and the examples you gave is a beautiful definition of being adaptable in the moment keeps you in the flow. You may have had a plan. The river was going to go this way. Then there's a big old boulder. So instead of being mad at the boulder, maybe we go this way and see where that leads us. So thank you for naming that. And the other thing I wanted to say before we like wrap up, and you guys can give your final words. And if anyone here live has any questions, you can ask. I love how you both articulated and highlighted the impact that this has on both genders. Whether you're male or female or whatever gender you identify, there is so much pressure in society and from our families and our upbringing to be in the do mode way more in the be. We have women who are hyper independent to a fault, and I can relate to that, right? And especially if you've been divorced, if you're a single parent, if your heart's been broken, if the way you're raised, we have this tendency as women to be hyper independent. We don't need no man, right? Or like what Shelley said, I trust you, but only to a certain degree. Because beyond that, like I can't trust you because I can only trust myself. And then the same thing with men. Men have been put so much pressure on them to, you have to provide, you have to go, you cannot rest. Like that's being lazy. That's not being like so much judgment around a man learning to receive and learning to ask and learning to be. And yet it's like the very thing all genders need. I think there's a hyper tendency to overdo. And I think we're learning how to sync up doing with being, and like because that both of those energies live in all of us. We're not meant to be only doers or only beers. Like they're both in all of us in a beautiful gift. And I love how you guys have been individually working on that, together been working on that, and then just naming it for people to realize you're allowed to be as well and not just do.
Like just last night was a perfect example. I was like, oh, it's gonna take me like 2 hours to fix up my landing page and all this, and I was like, hold up, I'm just gonna set it. I'm gonna take a bath. I'm gonna set a time limit for 30 minutes. I'm gonna go sit at my computer and I'm gonna do in the flow whatever I can. I finished all of it in 30 minutes. I didn't take 2 hours, 4 hours, or ask Shelley for help or anything. I was just like, I'm just flowing it through. Like it's gonna be fine. And what I've realized recently is like I used to get like the time-based trauma too, the anxiety of like, oh, I'm not going to get it all done. I'm not going to get it. And if you put that out to the universe, that's exactly what you're going to get. You're not going to get it done. But now I'm like, oh, I got plenty of time and I'm moving through universe with the flow and Shelley and everything we're doing. And it's like, it eventually like kind of gets done, and it allows me the time to actually be in the flow. Like I take my bath, like she's like, I'm going to bed at 6 p.m. Goodbye. And I'm like, bye. And like, then I go and I do my thing. Cause it used to be like, you need to get up at 4 a.m. with me and we need to get it all done. And I'm like, yo, I'm in goddess mode till 9 a.m. yo. So like if you want to do your goddess thing in the evening, then you need to respect like the goddess thing for me in the morning. God, goddess, whatever. I just joke around about it. But it's like
that.
And with the help of the universe, it's kind of like in my mind, I'll call it aligned help. So it's like if you're out asking people to help and someone comes up, like I've seen this with like women ask for help, and then a man comes and be like, yeah, I can help you with that. That's no problem, whatever. Then they say no. But what they're telling the universe no, right? So they're delaying their manifestation by saying no because they don't like the way the help looks, because the help might look a little different. And I hear Shelley taking a deep breath with that. Is there something you want to say?
I was going to say that's been like probably one of the biggest things is the realization that, do I even know what it looks like? Because it might be what I've pictured in my head, but it doesn't come in that form. And then when I like don't want it, why is it that I don't want it? Is it something, a physical feeling I'm having? Is it just,
or a construct of someone else's story?
Yeah, and then I realized like how important it was for me to create visualizations, and then also like even write it out, because for a long time I couldn't visualize, and now I just started writing it out. I couldn't like picture it, but I could at least just put words down. So they were words, they weren't emotions. But now I've been able to connect the two. And so I'm able to say, okay, this is the help that I'm needing, or this pivot is okay. I can feel it. I like it. I trust it.
So like with Shelley, we've explored a lot of like natal chart, human design, gene keys. We both like know some religion stuff too, but like, and science. And what's interesting is when Shelley like gets in this flow and she gives like the input to me, then I could amplify that. But I need to know from her what she wants. So what's interesting is like I can visualize what things look like. I can also feel what things feel like. Shelley is very much a feeler. So if something feels good to her, like the next step, I'm kind of relying on her, or at least asking her, like, what do you feel about that next step? Like, what does that feel like? Do you think, because I'll go a million miles an hour in a million different directions. And so I'm like, I'm kind of asking her as a partner in life and in business, like, hey, like, does this next step feel good to you? And whenever she has a gut feeling, or I do too, about like, oh, I don't think I like that. When she tells me that, then I can shut down that waste of time of stuff and we can focus on things that feel better for both of us.
I love that. So good. There's a beautiful question in the chat here, and I'd love for you guys to respond to it. Sharon wrote, as a single mom, I want to explore the do versus be modes and finding that flow within myself. Thoughts?
Okay, you want to jump on it?
So you can actually feel flow in your body versus doing. And for me, when I was in such a hyper independent state, the place to start, I feel, is to visualize back in your life the times where you, maybe even the day you've had where all of a sudden it's noon and you're like, I literally have accomplished, like, I don't know, like an entire
week of work in 4 minutes.
But to remember back to that, to like all the things and how you felt in your body that day, what was it that made it work so well together? Because we've all had those days where you feel flow. I mean, you literally, it could be like, let's say you got up at 3 a.m. and it's like 11 and you're like, I don't know what I did, but I accomplished some really amazing shit. And you just feel it in your body in a way that there's a lightness there. I mean, this is me. There's a lightness, there's a spark of inspiration. There's ideas that you're like, I didn't even know I could have these ideas. Okay, let me write these down. It's giving the permission.
It's like, I've seen it with Shelley. So like, if something drops in from her or for her and she immediately acts on it, she can be in the flow. Because you know what's interesting? You can do the laundry and the dishes or whatever any time of the day. And we've done some behind the scenes videos of like, when we record stuff like this, our house becomes a fucking mess disaster, right? Because there's like clothes everywhere and things everywhere and like and it's like giving yourself the grace to like be like, okay, it's like you're cleaning the floor rug on top of your wood floor and you're vacuuming it. And you know damn well there's dirt underneath the rug, right? But you're right. So like Laz Ross had said, like, give yourself some grace that there's dirt under there. Vacuum it. That's like the gratitude. Oh, it's this part's at least gonna be clean. And then you can enjoy the gift of a clean rug on top of some dirt, the inner work that you still want to do. By just being in the flow of like, okay, I'm just gonna vacuum this one thing and I'm gonna enjoy that one thing. And it's like, so you can be in the flow and vacuum.
It's like putting on your favorite music or dancing or doing something that you've done in the past, like especially in your childhood, and recreating and bringing that back. It's allowing that joy to be occurring in your life. Even
like the other thing is to build on that, when you feel that feeling of being in the flow and you're aware that you're in the flow, anchor that feeling into your body, because then your body will catch up with the mind and let them know, between your body and your mind, what being in the flow feels like. Because so much of us do this do stuff in our mind that we kind of forget what it's like to be in our body in the flow. And what's interesting is, now that I've explored this being in the flow more, I actually can do more. I can do more because I'm just flowing it out. I'm not in my mind of, oh, I have 1,000 to-do lists. And like, we write on Post-it notes all over the place. And what we're doing now is we're like using that nursing skill of triage, or teaching triage, and be like, what are the top 3 things we're going to work on today? And then let all the other little things filter in, because you know what? You'll flow through and you'll get them all done. But start with the ones that like feel the best for you. And also, if you don't feel like doing some big things, honor the little things. I call it like knocking down the low hanging fruit. Just knock them out, get them over with, and do something like that. So hopefully that helps with Sharon's question. Great question. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
I love that. Thank you, Sharon, for asking. And thank you, Shelley and Austin, for sharing.
Are there any other questions in the Facebook group?
Um,
I'll drop in the chat on Zoom. Maybe you could put it in Facebook.
mhm.
We have some upcoming events and offers where we're going to have a Thanksgiving Day event online where it's a free event. You could drop in anytime you want. If you just need a little refuge or break from the family, because last year was a little intense for us with like sharing this kind of stuff to people who weren't quite ready to receive it, because sometimes people will very much defend their construct to the end. So if you want to drop in for that, that'd be cool. Tomorrow we're speaking in a business entrepreneur social media group. You're welcome to come to that too. There's some free things, and then there's some connect call stuff info there. And then of course we've been putting a lot of content out on YouTube and TikTok, and also on Substack. We've been writing articles and stuff, exploring masculine and femininity, exploring freedoms of expression and platforms for expression. Read between the lines on that one, and just trying to get that going. Were there any other questions in the Facebook?
There weren't. And I was gonna say, I'm so glad you shared that link. I did drop the link into the Facebook
Thank
group.
you.
So everyone who is watching this live or in the replay, click that link. And Austin and Shelley, what I'd love for you to do after the session anytime today is to make a post in our group, so people kind of know like who you
Oh,
are
yeah.
and like, hey, thanks guys for tuning in. If you're looking for ways to connect, here's this link or whatever. And I just want to reiterate what you just shared about the Thanksgiving experience. Like, I think a lot of us can relate to having stressful, tense times with family and holidays. It's a lot. And I love that Austin and Shelley have created a Facebook group as a safe space for you guys to drop in at any point on Thanksgiving Day, and they're going to be there. And so they get to be your virtual family. So if you need to get away and have a little break, you have something you can tune into. So definitely take advantage of that. Like, again, like they were talking about, being willing to receive. They have created this as an opportunity for you to receive, so you can be. And so thank you for creating that, you guys. Thank you so much for leading and talking about this. I think you guys have so much to offer. And if you guys have questions, feel free to reach out to Austin and Shelley on their social media or in the link that is now in this chat here on Facebook. And then any last words, Austin and Shelley, that you'd like to share with everyone?
That's my favorite question for ChatGPT. Any final thoughts?
Love it.
So that goes for anybody in the chat and also in Facebook too. And Sam, yeah, thanks Sam for your support. Thanks for coming, Sharon, Quinty.
Yes, thank you.
Sincere, everybody on Facebook. Like sometimes as a man, it's kind of challenging with like the pressure of like, where do we even fit in now? Because like before it was like, just you grind, you'll be set, you'll have a white picket fence and kids and doggies and everything's fine. And now it's like, whoa, there's some women that have made a lot of money and they're very good at some things. And it's like, as a man, it's kind of like, where do I fit in this equation? You know what I mean? Like me, I had to kind of slip in a little bit into that like receive mode, because Shelley started being such a badass at the hospital, and I was like, okay, all right, like I guess I'll take care of the home front, like the dishes, the animals, the mail, the whatever. So as men, it's kind of like, where do we fit? And I think the first step of that is really like, okay, check in on yourself. Like, how are you feeling? Because you know what, like you probably met your partner when you were taking care of yourself, going to the gym, eating right, whatever your goals were at the time, and that's probably why they like were interested, right? And it's like getting reconnected with yourself. And I think that's like a great first place to start with men. And when you connect, I got the chills too. When you connect with yourself, then others will want to connect with you too. And so it's like, because I think sometimes we get departed from that and we get in our mind and it's like, okay, go for a walk, be with yourself, eat your favorite food, like get your hair cut, however, whatever you want to do. So thank you for the any final thoughts question.
And I was just going to say, for women, it's very easy to get in that do mode and not in the ease and the flow and the be. But it is very possible to get out of that, and it is very possible to feel that flow again, and just the feeling of being, even just doing simple meditations, but carving out I mean, 5 minutes a day for yourself in some way. It could even just be locked in your bathroom. It really could be. Just something. It really is possible to start very simple. It doesn't have to be in a huge extravaganza, but just getting connected with yourself again and just coming home ultimately, and then being able to trust yourself first, and then being able to trust others in your life. So,
Like, what messages is your body trying to tell you? And are you willing to listen to any of them? And if you're going to start somewhere with the body, just listen to one thing. If you get one little cue, if you get one little craving, you know, why do I have that craving? Am I short on some electrolytes? Am I short on some minerals? You know, like we found just different phases, different times of a cycle, like Shelley's needs are different. And so it's like just leaning into the body, and like, because the body knows. And your body will give you the chills when it's like, because that's the vibration of absolute truth. When you get the chills and your body's like, that's fucking absolutely 100% right. If it gives you that feeling, like, lean into that, you know, whatever the feeling is, your body will tell you, right?
yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Were there any final questions, Nicole?
No, that was genius. You have so many quotes from the session. Holy schmoly, so many takeaways, golden nuggets for men, women, couples. Like, this was absolutely genius. And I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking the time to share, for preparing this, for leading so beautifully, vulnerably, and transparently. And everyone, if you don't already follow them, give them a follow on social media. May you guys have rich conversations today and long after this extravaganza is over. But thank you, Austin and Shelley, from the bottom of my heart. This was absolutely incredible.
Thank you, everyone.
you.
Thank you so much.
We'll see you guys at 4 p.m. today. 4 p.m. today
4
Pacific time is our next session. So please be there if you guys can.
And that's with Renee, right?
Yes, that's with Renee.
Yoga for the face. Actually, that's perfect timing. She's going to talk about your body, taking care of your body, and it'll show up in your face, right?
Yes, I look younger when I'm embodied. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say. I look young when I'm embodied. Okay.
So we'll see everyone at 4 Pacific time.
Yes.
Awesome.
We'll see you then.
Bye.
Thank you guys. Bye.